What if I told you that the Cuban False Chameleon, yes, Anoles barbatus itself, can be sexed with 100% accuracy seconds after coming out of the egg? Many of you who are new to this species say, that's preposterous, you're proposing this idea. Well, in fact, it's not. It's kind of a known fact, but a lot of new people getting into the species don't know that. So today, we're going to be learning about 1, 2, and even 3 facts about the Cuban False Chameleon that new keepers do not know about, that the beginning keeper isn't going to know about, and the experienced keeper is going to be like, oh, that's a nice little way of thinking about it. I'll remember that one. Anyways, enough yapping, enough talking, let's get into it. Now, we're going to be talking about their lifespans first, because I hear so much different information online about this. People tell you, oh, they only live 3 years, they live 2 years, they live 10 years. It's all over the place. And that is not good for people to be hearing this when they're trying to get into the false claim, because they don't know when they're getting this animal, right? And maybe they're gonna buy their animal when it's a year old, and they're like thinking in the background, oh my god, what if he only lives 2 years? I only heard they live like 3-4 years, guys. And what that's gonna do to people, right, who are getting into this species is gonna kind of force them to be like, wait a minute, I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna walk away from this animal because its lifespan too short for me. When in reality, they can be relatively long-lived. In short, right, to ease you into this topic, the Cuban False Chameleon does not live 3 years, right? I mentioned a whole bunch of random numbers in the little intro of this part, but they don't. They do not. In fact, there is documentation of some even living into good old 18. But they're technically a different species, very, very closely related. It's a sister species, and, you know, there's some evidence that barbatus. But the average Cuban False Chameleon in the U.S. pet trade, I believe in Germany's as well, is Anoles barbatus, the Cuban False Chameleon. The one you'll see at your pet shops, the ones that I breed readily to the public. They live anywhere from 10 to 15 years. Now, you know, I'm sure there's some people in here like, huh, Cameron, you know, I don't believe you. This random website that posted an article in 2024 said they live 3 to 6 years. They're also a more reputable brand than you. Well, I just have something to say to that. It's Google real quick, you know, after this video, or, you know, while it's playing if you have a cool phone, I guess. Google, real quick, how old do Anoles live up to? Something like that. It's gonna say 3 to 6 years. I guarantee it, right? That's basic Anole information for wild animals that are widely understudied, right? For example, the smaller species, the Cuban cliff anole, the oldest one I've ever seen is 17 years old. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't look pretty at 17. But if it could live to 17 in those conditions, I'm pretty sure it can live to 17 in a more healthier body. It's just, you know, luck of the straw. But time will tell with that, right? But the Cuban False Chameleon will and can live to 10 years with proper care. And if you go above and beyond, you're gonna get into the 15s, and maybe you'll be a record breaker. Over here, Goliath, right? He's a big boy. You know, he's about 7 years old. Off the top of my head, he'll be about 8 when New Year's comes along. Yeah. He's getting up there in age, and you're like, oh, Cameron, that must suck. You know, he's close to 10. Are you seeing any signs of his degradation in health and all that? No, I'm actually not. In fact, I'd say he's getting more active with the years to come. I don't know what to tell you. He just keeps getting more active. He keeps wanting to breed more. It's crazy, right? It's very interesting. I personally think this is a good sign, so we'll see how it goes, but he's definitely beating a lot of allegations. You know, they're saying he should only be alive for 3-6 years. He's over both of those numbers. Hey people, so what if I told you we're going to be talking about their behavior? Why is that? That's because the Cuban False Chameleon has an astounding amount of people that will tell you they're just like crested geckos, they're puppy dogs, they love humans, they're amazing animals, they just want to be with me all the time, people. Then you're going to have people who are going to be a little more cynic, and they're going to tell you, hey, the False Chameleon, they don't like that. They're going to sit down, and that's all they're going to really want to do in life. Let them be. They don't do much. It's kind of boring if you ask me. Let me just tell you this. Both parties are wrong, right? Now, there will be outliers. Some false chameleons will, and want a little bit more human interaction than some others. Some others might be a little more aggro. I've experienced both in my time, my years of keeping this species. For example, Venom, lovely animal, probably one of the prettiest Cuban False Chameleons, Anoles barbatus, I've ever seen. She hates people. she hated people. She would bite me, she'd open mouth gape. It was cool. She was a cool animal, but she hates people, right? Goliath, coolest guy ever. I can have him on my shoulder all day and it will not be an issue, right? But I just want to talk about their behavior for the average false chameleon, for what you should expect, honestly, when you get this animal. What you should expect when you get this animal is to basically have a display pet and a pet that you can bring out on occasion to say, hey buddy, we're gonna hang out. Because the Cuban False Chameleon, at the end of the day, is an Anole. Anoles do not like to always be around people, and many are shy. Crown giants and the false chameleons and twig anoles seem to be a bit of an outlier, and a handful of weird small species tend to be a little more bold. But for most anoles that you're gonna find, they're pretty shy. And that innate factor with a false chameleon is still gonna be there at the end of the day. But their whole method to, not getting eaten in the wild, plus their larger size, plus they're just everything about them, what they hunt, it warrants them to just be a little, I don't know what to call it exactly, but I'm just gonna say bold in this factor. They're gonna be out. You can come in there and be like, what is this? Wow. You're just sitting there on that stick. Say this was Anolis Therius, you'd watch them hug it, and then turn around so you can break eye contact with them. False chameleon is just gonna look at you like that. What are you doing, bud? Type shit. Yeah. But, what those animals say, you reward them. Like, hey man, I have a roach, I have a superworm, come on out. What they're gonna do, they're gonna come on out of your arm. They're gonna not really complain much, and then you can put them back after. That is an honest way to handle the relationship with a false chameleon. Walk a fine line. They will, tolerate human time. They will tolerate that behavior. They will tolerate being around you and me. But keep in mind, they are a Anole. You gotta respect their space. You gotta respect their time. Most of their time should be in their enclosure, with their plants, with their water, with all their bugs. Very limited amounts of that time should be with you. Got that? Hopefully you did. Anyways, next time. Sub, like, share with all your friends and family. Ooh. This is the part where I mention more about the sexing of them. All I told you is that they can be sexed 100% accuracy, blah, 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 in the intro. But that's cool and all. You can do it. But how do you do it? That's where we come in now. So, let me give you a scenario. Say you're at a expo, right? And someone's like, hey man, I have false chameleons for sale. Hoorah! And they might be a little shady in the fact that they don't know so much about this animal. Now, maybe you did a little research, maybe you watched this video, and now you know more than them. Pretty much, in fact, you're going to ask, can I look at this animal real quick? And you're going to grab them, look under the hood, I guess, like in between the backplates where their vent is. Now, if they're a male, there's gonna be two large scales around that area. Now, if it has that, they're gonna be there when they come out the egg. Every single time. Unless it's like a less than 1% weird anomaly, I guess. Magic, I guess, who knows. That is gonna be a male. You're gonna know it's gonna be a male, right? Females, on the other hand, will lack those two scales for the rest of their life, just like that. Males will never lose those scales, and they'll have them from birth. Females will never gain them, nor will ever have them. And that is a factual statement. It's backed by what I've seen, what other people have seen, much larger than me have seen. Herpetologist is a very well-known fact if you just do a little bit more research, but I can't blame you if you didn't know before watching this video, because false chameleons are like a cesspit trying to learn about, honestly, right now. So yeah. Now, the other reason I mentioned that whole thing about the sexing is to give a heads up, right? When you go out to expos, you're gonna see a handful of people who are gonna have false chameleons occasionally. Not all of those people are breeding them. Not all of them are gonna be breeding the animals on their table. But those animals are always gonna have like poor condition. This is now gonna relate back to the other two topics. Because in my experience and what I've seen, the false chameleons that come from questionable backgrounds, aka not really knowing who the breeders are, not knowing how these were kept before, not really being sure these animals were kept in great conditions before coming to you, they always tend to live shorter. They always tend to not want to eat. They always tend to just have behavioral problems, be just poor quality animals. And I'm not saying that because my animal is $100 and this guy's animal is $80, it's better quality just because of that. mine will be better quality, most likely. But at the end of the day, you're gonna see them at Exos, you're gonna sell them cheaper, and they're gonna kind of know just enough to pass along. But if you know just a little bit more than the basics, you'll be able to distinguish right then and there if this person is bullshitting or not. Guess what you can do? Not buy this animal that is gonna probably leave you asking on a Facebook group, hey people, what is going on with my animal? Right? It's gonna save you the time, money, all the other stuff of dealing with an animal that you don't know anything about that's gonna have negative things going down the road. And not to mention, you're also gonna be kind of putting a little nick in their pocket to where they aren't gonna wanna work with this species and do what they're doing, which is overall gonna help this species' captive life into the future. Anyways, end of this video. Sub, like, share, and comment. I would love that. Yeah, I'll be in the comments. Watch this video.